All right. Welcome back to another episode. In fact, the 5th episode of CUZZO-OP. 2 cousins, 1 podcast, endless entertainment. I'm one of your hosts, IV, also known as Isaiah Velez. Gave the whole gov, that's kind of wild. And I'm also joined by my boy,
Willie,
you know what I mean? And we're here to discuss something a little different. You've been rocking with us for the past 4 episodes. We did, give a lot of movie and MCU discussion, but we told you this podcast is going to be about movies, yes, but it's also going to be about TV, and it's also going to be about games. And so tonight, we felt like this is it. This is the best time to dive in. It's been long enough. We want to discuss God of War Ragnarok. What does this game mean for us? What does this game mean for gaming? It's going to be a good one. Hey everyone, just wanted to jump in real quick and recap the franchise of God of War for those who haven't played any of them. So from here on out, there will be spoilers for the entire franchise. The God of War franchise has been around since 2005, and with the release of God of War Ragnarok, there are now 8 titles in the series. The original trilogy was known for its fast-paced action and intense battles, following the story of Kratos, a Spartan warrior who made a deal with the Greek god of war Ares to live and win his battles. Ares granted his request, but he also forced Kratos to kill his wife and daughter, which sent him into a state of anger and revenge. Kratos killed Ares and became the new god of war, but he was betrayed once more by the gods. Kratos made it his mission to kill the whole Greek pantheon, using his rage and brutality to do whatever it takes. However, in the 2018 release of God of War, we got to see a different version of Kratos, who was older and clearly haunted by his past. The 2018 God of War and God of War Ragnarok are more narrative-focused than the original trilogy, emphasizing the storytelling and character development over the fast-paced action. In God of War 2018, Kratos had found a new wife, and they had a child, and his name is Atreus. He was now in the land of the Norse gods, and when the game starts, his new wife has died, leaving him and his small son to spread her ashes as her last wish. Throughout the game, Kratos keeps his rage inside and is smarter about how he fuels it since he has learned from his mistakes. However, his son struggles with being a god, and it is up to Kratos to help him be better, while always opening himself up to the love of his son. The game ends with Kratos and his son having grown closer to one another. However, their actions have upset the gods of the Norse realm, and that is where God of War Ragnarok picks up. Willie, I think what we should do here is this. I'm going to take the lead on the conversation, but at the same time, I want to just hear your points off. No organization whatsoever. Just drop them. Let's ride. And I'm letting you start.
Oh, so you want me to go with one of my points off rip?
Run it.
So one of the main points that I wish to speak about is in every God of War game, Kratos gets a new weapon. And in this game, he gets, in my opinion, probably his best weapon of all time. Because of how symbolic it is. You know, he's known, his iconic weapon, the Blade of Chaos, Athena, whatever you want to call them, those are his iconic weapons. But those were the weapons that he had during his time of slavery and vengeance against the gods, which is why in this game, you notice whenever he's dealing with them, he throws them. He has zero care for these weapons. He throws them down. But then he takes his frost axe, that was his wife's. He places it down carefully. And the frost axe has been the iconic weapon from these last 2 games, but the spear that he gets in this game, I think is his best weapon of all time because it honors the entire road that it took for him to get the spear, which is the weapon of a Spartan, which he is. His start is a Spartan, and his growth from beginning to end, it led him back to his root, his beginning. He tells Brock,
you're going crazy right now.
When he gets it, we are trained as boys with this weapon. And
the spear is the first weapon the Spartans are trained with.
Exactly. And for that, and it moves so fluently, and it's just like people wanted him to have Mjolnir in this game and get it from
Heck no.
Thor, and I'm like, nah, he got the spear. Which is why in the scene where the spear is created, it shows the Omega symbol for war, but then it shows the Spartan symbol because that's who he is inside at the end of the day. And I thought it was beautiful. That scene really choked me up just because for the last 15 years or however long this franchise has been going on, he started as a Spartan and lost
It's
his way,
crazy.
and now he's returning back.
It's so good, bro.
So
It's so well written. It's just an amazing weapon. I really loved the contrast of the soullessness of Brock in that moment with this soulful moment. I also like the blood being what turns into the red sash. I felt like that was insane. In light of everything you're saying, it's just a great weapon, and I found myself wanting to. I felt the struggle inside of myself as the gamer. I'm wanting to use this spear all the time, and I barely am using the axe now, or I'm using it when I have to, or the blades, like I'm using it for crowd control, but I just want to hold the spear the whole game because it just slaps. So I'm feeling you, bro. I think we should stop here and take us back to the beginning on this. Take us back to the beginning of the story here. Like God of War, and I think this is one of my points. God of War 2018 was a reimagining of those years and years they had made this guy a PlayStation icon, but for honestly, a terrible story for a man to go through. The stuff he goes through is crazy. He puts himself through stuff, but there's craziness in his story. And they decide to not retcon everything. That's what's crazy. They didn't just say, oh, it's a reimagining. They took this character, they created something real, emotional, very human, and they have him leave the Greek mythology world and enter into the Norse world. And here we're getting to see different shades and the emotions of this character and see him really be fleshed out and developed in a way that we feel like we're growing alongside him. And the first game was so beautifully written. It's no wonder it won Game of the Year and all of these other awards that it won. So when they said they were dropping a sequel and that it was coming, and we knew at the end of the first game where we were going to continue the story in some way, shape, or form. When they said they were coming back, we wanted nothing but progress. We wanted nothing but growth. We wanted nothing but a continuation. But obviously, like, how can you throw me deeper into this world? And I think that's the question I want to ask you. Do we feel like this game is a progression from 2018? Does it do what they said they were going to do, which was progress this story, and they said they wanted to close this story as well? And I think there are moments where I say yes, it does, and then there are moments where I'm not so sure. What do you think?
I think the growth that they bring Kratos on and Atreus, Freya, those three characters specifically, there's a lot there. And then technical wise, it's not that big of a difference between the last game and this game, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. They tweak things to improve it. There were definitely aspects of the first game where I was like, this needs touching, and it worked.
Right.
Like fast travel. I don't use
True.
fast travel much in the game, but it's a nice option to have. In terms of closing out the story, I feel like they closed out this story, not the entire story. There's more God of War to come. But the story of Kratos and the journey that he was going through for the Norse saga feels wrapped up for him. Now, if we move on to Atreus and his journey, that's a different, that's different. But for Kratos, it feels like he's at a completely different place, which it just feels so good. So, I think progress was made.
I feel you. I agree with those points of progression, but It doesn't change the fact that this still is really difficult for me, and I want to say that this game. Now I'll give my rating later, but I just want you to understand this, listeners and Willie. This game, it may be my favorite video game I've ever played, like I've ever gone through. It may be.
Wow.
Of all time.
Okay.
It's so true that I'm now going to play Witcher 3. I mentioned the fact that God of War was potentially dethroning Witcher 3 as my favorite game of all time. I'm gonna go play it again because I need to make sure before I tell y'all this is official. So from that perspective, I love this game and I want it to be everything it's supposed to be, right? But I do feel like they wanted to continue this story so much that there are places where I didn't feel like the landing stuck as much as I wanted it to stick and as much as the first game stuck, and this is why sequels are difficult sometimes,
I get that, because even since finishing Ragnarok, I've been wondering to myself, do I like the 2018 game more? And I've gone back and forth because it's like, nah, Ragnarok feels so much better. And it hit me so much harder than the original 2018 game did. And yet the 2018 game is focused and it's simple. It's, Kratos and Atreus' journey.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. It's something I still haven't landed on yet.
Because its simplicity is easier to execute, but the complexity of this and how well they executed it is a lot to be said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to your Witcher point, you've said it on the podcast before, I believe. So I'm just gonna move ahead as if you have. Have you played Witcher 3 since having a child?
No.
So, in different points of our life, these stories are gonna hit differently. And you're playing God of War and you're playing God of War Ragnarok after having your first child. So I know that there are things there that you're thinking about that maybe when you originally played Witcher, when you were 21, 20 years old, you might not have been thinking about at the time. So I wonder if you're going to go back now and find more things, or just find that the game giving you a parental child story is just going to hit harder for you now.
I think it's going to multiply for sure, because both stories, if you haven't noticed, or if you don't know anything about Witcher, he's got like a little sister that he's basically like a parent to, that he's trying to find the entire story, and so that relationship is at the core of the game. And so the same way that Kratos and his son are at the core of this game, I guess those are my games. Dang, I have a type. You just outed me. I'm sick.
Bro, I can't wait for the Last of Us talk.
Oh, heck yeah, that's going to be good. But yeah, I think like that was my worry. I just felt like toward the tail end, I felt like they could have done something a little bit more chancy, similar to what we talked about when we said in Ant-Man, how we felt like the risk of the moment was erased by Cassie opening the portal. Like I don't necessarily feel like everybody who's still alive had to be. And we could have gotten like a great story. I think like the, spoiler alert, obviously, but maybe I'll just keep it a little bit down low. Are we gonna go full blown?
Yeah.
So spoiler alert, I just think like them killing off her brother didn't matter to me in any way, shape, or form. It cost me nothing. Even if I got respect for his character, he gave me the bow, that's cool. The sister, obviously, like that's cool. He's a legend in these streets. He's got a great heart, that's cool. But for me, bro, it was just like, oh man.
Yeah.
We did all this, had this eureka moment in the middle of the battlefield for the final boss. And oh man, I don't really care, bro. It didn't matter to me. And I was like, take somebody Game of Thrones style from me. That changes my whole perspective on everything. That makes me have to reevaluate everything, bro.
Yeah, I think there's like there's two ways of looking at it, right? Because at one, it's like, yes, I think his name was it Freyr? he was just back and forth the entire game. Like, oh, he's in danger. We got to help him out. And he's played by Brett Dalton, and I love Brett Dalton. So I mean, but I think his death is more meant. We're more meant to care about what it does to Freya, since we've seen how she handles grief. But I get what you're saying, because it's like, damn, that kind of just happens. It is kind of something that just happens right at the tail end.
Yo, bro, you just wrapped it up. That grief line starts the game grieving, still angry about how we found her last game, and then now she's able to lose her brother after finding him, and she's okay. Wow, yo, bro, never mind. You're right.
So
I missed that.
Yeah, but if you and I, we try not to talk about what points we're going to get into before we get here, so that everything is just feels natural.
It's organic.
The one thing that I know about what you told me weeks ago, a talking point you were bringing to the table, I feel like this is a good time to get into it on the conversation of grief. We lost Brock in this game, and we got to see how Sindri dealt with that. And I want to hear why you wanted to talk about Sindri, because I have something I'm ready to bring to the table, but I want to hear what you have to say first about it.
Well, I know you probably already know how I feel because you're you, but I think Sindri is obviously in denial of his involvement, which comes with grief, right? One of the stages. So to me, it's like, I think they hammered that denial thing super hard for his character. And I guess it just broke my heart to see how that's the way that they decided to let this game end. Him in that posture, I guess it was frustrating for me, especially because everything he's frustrated with Kratos and all of them for, and losing Brock, it's hypocritical because he benefited from everything. All his work wasn't like, oh, let me tie your hands behind your back. It's let me edit your axe. Let me fix your blades. Let me take care of that. Let me fish this ring out the well I have in my basement. You know what I mean? Like, he was doing like 9,000 different things, not because of any other reason than he believed in the goodness that everybody was involved in. So when he came out in the end, I just didn't like how he ended. I also understand how he's just angry and he wants someone to blame, and he's afraid to take the ownership himself, obviously, as a character. I mean, he hid that he had already revived his brother once. And so it's like, it's not just the grief of this loss, but the first loss as well, because he never had to go through the first loss's grief. And you see that in the way that he moves around and the way that he gets angry and the way. So all that being said, bro, I just think it's unfortunate how they ended him. And that made me upset while I'm going through it. Like, when we just got to the last mission, the mission is done. Even that, before we're about to get to the last part of the last mission, and his heart posture toward us had me like, this man is a scrub. I can't believe he's really on this level right now. Atreus is trying to be sweet. No, you took everything from me. I gave you everything. You must not be talking to me, bro. Because you was out in them streets throwing smoke bombs at enemies right beside me, whether I press square or not. And ran.
Sindri is a character who gave, and he never asked for anything in return. In the first game and the second game. And yeah, in the first game, he had selfish reasons for fixing your axe up. He was trying to overdo his brother until they came together in the end. But throughout the entire story, he was giving out of the kindness of his heart, and giving and giving. We don't hear anybody at any point during the game say, do you need something? Or is this thank you even? So yes, he made his own choices, but at the same time, he's giving. And then he loses the one thing that actually matters to him, his brother, because of the mistakes of our characters. So while I was very surprised that they ended him off in with him just still in that unsettled spot, it's like, how else could they have done it? Especially because I don't know. I'm gonna assume we're having this conversation, so you done, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
There's a side quest, which ends the game officially, where you send Brock's body out into the water of his realm, and Kratos goes to give his like console to, or whatever we call it, to him, and he just takes his hands off, and he's like, you could tell he's just done, and that's how the
He's not
game
with him.
ends. You know what I mean? Like the game hits the real credits with Sindri basically
With
telling
that,
you to fuck off. Like it's kind of crazy.
it is.
So
It is very crazy.
with so many characters, like Freya going through her grieving stages and everything, coming out on top, with Sindri, I think he's just someone who has to sit in that for a while. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, I guess again, man, I think when you want something to be so great, that's when the expectation comes out the most. And I think my expectations were stopping me from being able to enjoy it. But at the other end of it also, it's just like I think they probably felt some level of that internally as well. Like as much as they know that he lost Brock, he's down bad right now. I'm sure there's some level of trace. It's like, yo, bro, you were supposed to be like great friends. You know what I mean? Like we were friends. As much as you're a giver, you've taken some things. It's not like our presence has disturbed your life. We've given some level of purpose to your presence because we're at this point in time, you, like everyone else, was just kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. So I look at it from that perspective and I'm like, it's so irritating. And I guess it just leaves another space or place for them to take the game as they progress, which ties it all the way back to the beginning here, right? Did they progress? And I think so. I think in some ways I do prefer the first game. I think the emotional weight of the first game also was just, it hit for me. I'm gonna just do a second point and I'll ask you a question and you jump in. But in terms of the pacing of the game is a very long game. I'm not 100%. I think I have maybe 2 more missions left. But I did finish the story.
So you're not done.
51 shut up. 51 hours I've sunk it into this game. I haven't played a game that long in a very long time. It's a long game.
It is a long game.
And these days, bro, I'm trying to savor the flavor and play it slowly. But on top of that, I got a life. I got things I got to take care of. I can't sit at home all day and play a game for 15, 24 hours. You know what I mean? And so it took me months to complete this game. And as I kept returning, it felt like another episode of the God of War show where I just went through another piece of the story. And maybe it's because I consumed it like that I feel like this, but I felt like this game was very long. And I felt like there were some places in the game where it was moving a little bit too slow. And then there were moments where it was feeling like it was moving way too fast.
Yep.
And I think maybe that comes with the complexity of it. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think for the most part, the pacing was pretty solid. There's one mission that I know I'm not the only person to say this about this mission. It was a long mission. I think they were called the Ironwood Forest missions with Atreus, where we first meet Angrboda. That mission was long. So long that I forgot I had finished. I took a 3-week break during the new year from away from God of War. And I forgot that the last time I had gotten off, I was playing as Atreus. So I'm ready to play as Kratos again. I hop on and I'm Atreus and I'm like, okay, let me do this mission and I'll have Kratos time. By the time that mission finished, any want that I had to continue on, I was done. I was like, we will visit this another day. So
Big facts.
that was a long one, and I get it.
And then on the quick end, fighting Heimdall, I felt like it was too fast, bro.
So Heimdall
Too fast.
was one of my favorite fights in the game. But getting there, yes. The leading up to the fight was a very long one. And I'd argue maybe even Ragnarok feels a little bit speedy.
Too fast. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what, bro? let's talk about this. What do you find in the plot that they did this whole circular Ragnarok time kind of like a connection to the past, like moments that point back to God of War 18 and give 2018 and give purpose to it because it happened at Ragnarok and so it's prophesied. Like, did you notice those connections? Like
with the world serpent, that's a big one where they say, rumor has it that Thor knocks him into the past thousands of years ago at the Battle of Ragnarok. And then we see it happen. And it happens so far in the distance. And it's like not throwaway, but it's like, that's not the focus. But if you get it, you get it. A lot of people didn't understand that snake that Loki revives when he's on
that mission with
Angerboda during that time is the world serpent that gets knocked back in time. That's not the world serpent from 2018. You know,
right?
There's just things like that where I pay mind to that.
I thought that was so sick, bro. And when that Angerboda painting that he looked at and was upset with Atreus, oh, I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be Odin's friend like that. When you go back and you look at it, Endgame, when you get the seed to go back over to Jotunheim, all of those scenes did happen in game, but our perspective of them happening through Atreus's eyes was that he betrayed his dad and that he hung out with Odin. And it's like he went and he left his dad. He did betray his heart and he went to hang out with Odin, but it wasn't like that. It was so good.
Exactly. And what about the subversion of expectations set up by the rules of the game itself? Every time we've seen one of those drawings, we've seen those actions come true. And at the end of the last game, we see Kratos dead in Atreus' arms. And we say, damn, everything that happened on the panels next to it happened. So why is this one going to be any different? Because then we learn that Faye, Kratos' wife, destroyed it for a reason. She didn't want that to be the future. And that those weren't true, even though they were, and it doesn't happen that way. And even the end bit where Atreus takes the soul from Odin and it ends the same way that Kratos' painting did, just opposite.
Crazy.
It's all just so crazy. But
yeah, they wrote the crap out of this game, bro. They wrote the crap out of this game. It's amazing. Yes. It's amazing.
One thing I want to talk about, I had a phrase that I was ready to use and I don't remember it. A narrative presence versus a physical presence. I think the perfect character who we feel that with is Thor. I really love how Thor is done in this game because he's a haunting presence throughout the entirety of 2018. The old drunk bastard, the violent, vicious man who beat his own son because he failed. And we meet him in this game and, we're ready for this Thor fight. And he's just like, I've come to break wine with you. But then he doesn't drink it. The drunken bastard, he doesn't drink. And he's hurt.
Yeah, man.
And he's walking the line that Kratos is. And he's essentially, his development happened off screen between the last two games. And we weren't ready for this Thor. We were ready for a Thor who's going to come down battle hungry. And this one is just depressed. He's a tool. And Kratos knows that he's a tool because Kratos was once a tool himself, which is why at the end fight, where he says, get up. I'm not going to kill you. Your daughter calls my son friend. And I need to believe that you are like me. And he is like him. It was
beautiful.
Good.
It was beautiful, bro. It was so, and I think maybe I wanted it so much more because the last adaptation of Thor I've seen has been turned into a joke. And this story is very serious. And I love the way that they told the branches of that story through the perspective of the daughter and how she sees her dad, and then the sons. And you remember what they had said in 2018, and then all of these different perspectives, plus what Atreus gets to call out and challenge himself. Crazy. He's calling out Thor. You go from being Atreus on a freaking boat, hearing stories from Mimir about Thor, to sitting, to going to realms and going in realm travel with that same person you heard stories of and talking to him like, but maybe you're just being rude. And I'm like, yo, bro, that's Thor. You're wilding right now.
The narrative presence of Thor was different than the physical presence that he had while on screen, and it was so good. But then they delivered on that other aspect of him also, because if you didn't get chills during the opening boss fight of the game, where he's essentially just whooping your ass the entire time,
The whole time, bro.
craziness. Everything about the
I think that
opening
was crazy.
is just so good, and it's just like
They were so
Thor
smart.
is a great character in this game, and I think if you came in wanting badass Thor, it's not the game for you, because the gods in the Norse saga are not the gods from the Greek ones. If these gods were made the way they were back in the Greek games, you would have gotten a one-dimensional Thor who's gonna show up, fight, you win, you take his hammer at the end. But in the end,
Exactly.
he makes the choice that Baldur didn't make. He makes the choice to say, I want to be better, which is another point I want to get to. So please don't let me forget about my point of being better.
Oh, bro, it's the theme of the game. It's the theme of the game. Yeah, man. I just think it was so beautiful how they did that. I love the way that Freya and Kratos become friends in this game. I love their friendship. I love that she's on the cover of the game. I love that you mentioned she's one of the main characters. I love that she sees Atreus like a son and what that means for her, considering hers has never loved her, for doing something that she ultimately gets to play a role at in a healthy way in Atreus' life. They just wrote the crap out of her storyline in this game, and I wasn't expecting it, because all of the trailers just look like, oh, father and son going on another. It was just like a third storyline that continued to develop and intertwine with the two protagonists. She eventually just became another main character for the game for me. And the fact that I get to run around with her on the back end of the game and be able to hear them all talk and share stories and just become friends. Yo, bro, it's just, they get the concept of friendship down in this game, like locked up. The conflict of, you know, when we find Atreus, he's hiding from his dad that he's looking for Tyr. And who is he looking for Tyr with? Sindri. They call each other best friends. You're like one of my best friends. And at the end of the game, we get we get a Sindri that doesn't even want to look at Atreus. That when Atreus reaches out for him, he slaps his hand away too, which is crazier than Kratos' slap away, bro. Like, that's his boy. The conflict, the love, the buildup, all of it, bro. It's been a minute since I played a game that was able to so masterfully write into so many different themes and storylines. And it was like, you would need like a 10 to 15 person team for each of these themes, bro, with how stretched out they made it. They didn't just create a game that was 3 times as big in set pieces or 3 times as big in the worlds or 3 times. They wrote infinitely deeper storylines than the first game. And I feel like there's not a lot of games out there that do stuff like that. And if they are out there, you don't want to play them because they seem too slow and they take too much time to build up story and they don't have enough action. God of War has found a balance that I think is very, very refreshing. In this area.
Yeah, people's biggest complaints, I feel like, were Kratos is weaker than he was in his original games. He's been weakened. He's been nerfed, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, he's so much stronger because he knows how to handle his anger.
Talk about it.
He weaponizes his anger. He's not running off of just rage. He controls it. He is in charge of his rage now.
Absolutely.
And that makes him more dangerous.
I am your monster no more.
And then even the drive of, he is not out for his own vengeance, but he's out to protect his son. He has the right motivation and the smarts of how to use his power, and it just makes him all the more dangerous. So I think people just wanted more chaoticness, which I'm glad that they looked at people's complaints from God of War 2018 about it, and they were like, who cares?
Yo, bro, can you imagine if they were still making the game like that?
I don't.
If we were still getting that, we would have missed out on these days. These games, bro. If you go on TV right now, bro, and you just open up, any produce channels, like Star Show, it's a show that can be classified as like smart TV. It's the Secessions and the Billions and the Suits and the Yellowstone. It's these characters that play emotional and physical chess with one another, and the way the dramas go down.
Yep.
If we weren't getting video games like this, we wouldn't be able to argue with you that video game is just as impactful and as masterful of an experience in media than movies and TV. Gaming
Yep.
has to stop sleeping on us. Stop sleeping on us.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm sure many games did it before, but like The Last of Us from 2013 did something to gaming that I will forever be grateful for.
We wouldn't have we wouldn't have God of War Ragnarok or God of War 2018 without Last of Us. Undoubtedly, this game wouldn't have existed.
And what gives that more benefit is that because of that, they were able to take this Kratos. If you ask me, Kratos is the mascot of PlayStation. But I wouldn't have said that before God of War 2018. I would have said he was one of PlayStation's characters who was iconic, but I probably would have given it to someone else. But now I'd probably give it to him. God of War 2018 wasn't my favorite PlayStation 4 game. Obviously, Uncharted 4 was, but I think God of War 2018 is the best game that released on the PS4 console.
God of War is better than Uncharted 4?
As a produced game, production-wise,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You wouldn't get a God of War 2018 without Uncharted.
You wouldn't get Uncharted without Last of Us.
Exactly. Everything is influenced by Last of Us.
That dropped on
that
PlayStation 3. So that wins that.
It's insane. It's insane.
But yeah. I mean, it was a game. God of War. To just go back to some of this, my earlier stuff with the spear. Another thing that I loved about this game is Kratos calls back to his Greek roots a lot. In 2018, there's this one moment where Sindri throws him an apple and he cuts it in half, and you're meant to think, oh, that's just Kratos being grumpy. But in Greece or in Greek mythology or whatever it is, I don't know, to throw an apple at someone is to indicate love. And he slices that right down the middle because he's like, nah. But the reason why I say that is there is a moment in this game, this is more like a technical thing, where they speak about the traditions of Greek storytelling. And Kratos says, it is Greek tradition for a story to unfold in a single time and place uninterrupted. Now, that's a meta thing, because some people will know, some people will not know. God of War 2018 and this game are told in one uninterrupted shot. It's told with no cuts. The cutscenes and gameplay are fluently just transitioned into where it all looks so perfect. That was a meta joke. I thought it was great. I thought it just, great. That was great. I appreciate
these guys are crazy, bro. Man, there's something in this game for everyone, bro. There just is. And I get it, bro. There's people that are going to say that the first game it was too iconic for it to be bested. But this conversation has done nothing but remind me it's like that, bro. It's better. It's better. Speaking of better.
Yes.
Talk to me, bro. Tell me about this better.
All right. Bro. So in the first game, there's that whole conversation at the end of the game where Atreus is like, is this what it is to be a god? Sons killing their fathers. And he tells me,
is this what it means to be a god?
No, we must be better. And it's like, damn, that's Kratos saying that. So in this game, we get a flashback. We get many flashback sequences in this game where Kratos and Faye are talking with one another. And like the shocker to me when I saw that Faye was Deborah Ann Wool from Daredevil.
That was
crazy. I was like, oh, okay. But
I'm the one that told you that.
Probably because I don't know.
We were texting. I was like, "Yo, bro, they really got Shuddy from Daredevil in here," and you were like, "Who?" And I was like, "Bro,
I was
Faye."
just scared that it was Rosario Dawson again because she's been popping up everywhere, and I'm like,
Oh, freaking Rosario.
I love Rosario Dawson, but
Me too.
after
Me too. I'm
dying
not saying I don't.
Dying Light 2, I was like, please no. But
I forgot about that.
Faye tells Kratos in the flashback, because Kratos, keep in mind that this man was just angry his entire life, and so he found a woman who would like love him anyway, and for her to say, "We are not who we were. We must be better." When he is afraid of his future, it's so good because it shines all the way to the end of being better. His violent and aggressive behavior from throughout all the games is his just. In the end, he is. We can't change the past, is essentially what that's saying. But we can change the future. We can be better. In the end game, and when you beat the last Berserker, and you get his weapon, not to use, but it's part of the game's inventory system, and Mimir is like, no, you can't use that. Do you know what that thing has done? And Kratos' response is, its story is still being written, and we can choose.
The kids will they will argue of what the good part and the bad part, and which was better and which was more noble.
And it's like being better. You don't have to look at the past. You don't have to be defined by it. Which is, he was always so scared. Odin in this game played brilliantly, by the way, because we haven't talked about Odin, but he was great. He teases Kratos. Do you know what it's like to be loved, to be worshipped? Kratos has never known that. And in the end of the game, he opens up that final panel and he's being worshipped because he was the general that freed them from the wrath of Odin. He became better, from wiping out the Greek pantheon for his own selfish reasons to saving the Norse realm. He's better. Kratos is better.
It's redemptive, bro. It's just so redemptive. And I think playing with how they play with time in this game and make winks to what was, it's like they're keeping you laterally thinking about that concept throughout the entire game with everything they do. One moment can mean 3 moments, 3 different things. And yeah, man, they do come out better. And I think the fact that he holds on to that phrase so firmly when he's talking to his son, and his son is worried that like the future isn't as bright as he would hope it to be. And it's crazy to me because Kratos has always been so hard-hearted, and the way that his son has kind of like ministered to him with his presence and shown him something more. It's like Faye reminds him through Atreus. That point was crazy, bro.
So first, in the first half of your sentence right now, there's a conversation where Kratos and Atreus have after Brock dies, where Atreus is like, I just want to get on a boat and sail away. And Kratos says, you cannot do that. I've tried. But the past comes for you. So you need to sail towards something. You need to have purpose. And that's just so good. But in terms of Faye and echoing, in the first game, Atreus has to kill a human being to save Kratos. He shoots him, and he's so sad. And Kratos says, close your heart to their suffering. And that's at the beginning of that game. At the end of this game, innocents are dying, and Atreus is trying to remind himself. He's like, close my heart to it. Close my heart to it. And Kratos says something. Keep in mind, I haven't said it for the last 20, 30 minutes, and then like 20 minutes after the game ended, I was crying. I was a mess. He says, no, do not close your heart to it. Open your heart to their suffering.
Open your heart.
Open your heart. It is your mother's wish as it is mine. Because growth, because being better, he wanted better for his son, and he knew that it wasn't in his son's nature, but he's telling himself that also. When we open our hearts to the suffering of others, we are better because we can help.
Yeah, we
So
feel driven to.
that's
We feel driven to assist.
more echoing from Faye. More of that. Faye was hitting bars in this game.
Bro, she was definitely dropping bars, and I like how they sprinkled her dreams into his story throughout the time. But I think I'm still just losing my mind, bro, because it's just this idea of time. You know, we thought that Kratos was the one that was teaching Atreus all throughout the first game, but it was really Atreus that was teaching Kratos. So now this game has done the monumental thing of adding a perspective to the first game that didn't exist prior, and I think that is the mark of a great sequel. You know, and I think it's insane, man. I think this is like an accomplishment in gaming, and they're going to win a lot of awards for this one. They already have. They will continue to. And I think this is going to be PlayStation's first real TV show. I mean, not PlayStation's first real TV show.
I was about to say,
PlayStation.
excuse me, we are watching PlayStation's one of their finest adaptations currently.
My bad. I didn't mean to say that. I think this is going to be another one of PlayStation's big TV show adaptations. I think they're going to want to try that with this storyline. And I don't know how it's going to go.
I don't either, because if they start directly at Norse, you lose the Greek, and you need it. You need the Greece for this to work. You need the Greek pantheon. You need the rageful Kratos to go through that journey before you get this Kratos. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can do it. But I just know that it's... I felt this development so much more. And if you just jump and you know, they can do flashbacks, they can talk about it, but just playing through it is a whole different experience. So I don't know what they're gonna do.
No, this is some where like the medium of gaming is the only way you can get the story across in such a grandiose way. You can't fit this in 45-minute episodes with 15 minutes of commercials on TV. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work. So I think what they're done with Last of Us was excellent. That's a conversation I'm excited to have. But whatever media they create from God of War, I hope they do it and they do it well. Because this is just a crazy game, man. What'd you give it a review of?
So I don't know if I've sat and thought about a number yet, but it's the closest thing to a 10. You know, it ain't a 7, and 8, and 8, and 8, and 9.
It's like a 9 It's like a 9.7 for me.
Yeah, like
7.5.
What am I gonna do? Like, the game had me in tears 20 minutes after the credits rolled. I had to pause the game. When you beat the game, they have the Hosier song playing, and you're like, bro, why is this the perfect song to just hit? And you think about it all. It was just all really good. I pulled up the script from the game here because I want to read this specific segment of the game, which really stuck with me also. You know, when these games handle like grief is a huge thing, and because grief is applicable to all of us. We can all relate to grief in some sort of way. So I want to read this. It's a conversation from, once again, Faye and Kratos. She says to him, "We will always walk together, Kratos. You will always be a part of me, and I will always be a part of you." And his response is, "And when you are gone, that part of me dies as well. Faye, to feel your absence." And she cuts him off and says, "No. The culmination of love is grief, and yet we love despite the inevitable. We open our hearts to it," which is where the conversation of opening your heart to the people around you comes back. "To grieve deeply is to have fully loved. Open your heart to the world as you have opened it to me, and you will find every reason to keep living in it."
Crazy. They ate that up, bro.
Whoever was writing Faye's lines,
they was off that crack, bro.
This woman was magnificent.
They were on drugs.
To do what she did to Kratos, that line is crazy. And how many people are going to skip over it because it's a video game line?
That reminds me of that line from WandaVision.
What is grief if not love preserving or persevering or whatever? Yeah.
But if not love persevered.
The culmination of love is grief, and yet we love despite the inevitable. It takes strength to love. because love
Yeah.
can only end in one way for somebody.
100%.
So this game was dope, essentially.
Yeah, they ate this up, man. It's a deep one. It's a very fun one. I love the combat system. I love the way the game feels. We talked about the weapons. We talked about the story. We talked about the themes. We talked about the timing, the pacing. The game is beautiful, and they did a great thing. They knew that they would be able to maximize the PlayStation 4's, the engine that they had from 2018, to use it to the fullest of its degree and not level it up and limit themselves. They just maximized, man. They created a beautiful game. And the only other game I know that has done that well, other than Last of Us 2, is Witcher. And so I'm just excited to see when I play Witcher again where I end up landing.
Yeah,
but
and I mean,
this game has tapped the bar, man.
I'll be playing Witcher
Tapped
for the
bar.
first time. So, I mean,
I think I'll wait till you start and then we'll start together.
I'll be starting soon. Like I said last
You let
week,
me know.
I'm playing through the Outer Wilds. If anybody's a fan of the Outer Wilds, yeah, I know the game has not been for me. I've been struggling a lot. I've had a few of my friends listening around while I'm playing, and they know it's been a very agonizing, painful time for me to play this game. I'm excited for Witcher because you've been talking about it forever, and you know, Geralt looks cool. I mean, he looked cool.
He's very cool, man. He's just as cool as Kratos.
Wow.
So, all that being said,
that's
I think we've reached the end. Any last thoughts when it comes to God of War Ragnarok?
I mean, you know, because of how impactful this story is, like you said, yeah, gameplay was fun. You know, it's so simple because it's 2018. It didn't need to be anything crazy. I think the last thing I might want to add to this conversation, just, you know, I was taking notes.
And the combat is challenging. The combat is actually difficult.
It is.
I played it on the hardest difficulty I could, and it was crazy.
I don't know when in the game this was said. I think Mimir might have said it to Atreus after Brock's death. Don't take to heart the things said in grief, no matter how spot on. I like that line because it's like, grief will make your delivery of what you mean to say mean something completely different. And your acceptance of it will also be different when you're grieving. So this game was great. If you're a gamer, play it. If you're not a gamer, just, I don't know, go look up the story of Kratos or something, or go listen to some of the deep lines, because Christopher Judge won Best Actor or whatever for the Game Awards this year for a reason. He was hitting those line deliveries, and everything from the way he moves. Like I said, he was dropping weapons as if he didn't care about them. And it was all done so well. It's a real great story of grief and parental love and loss and so many more things.
Absolutely, man. It's honestly it's a spectacle. And I'm excited to see where they take it. This game has, like I told you, 51 hours. I do it all over again. I wish I could. I wish I could go back and play it again for the first time. So if you play game, if you're just a gamer casually, like you just, I saw a Batman game came out, so I bought it and I like playing it. Like, you need to play this game. Just sit down. You know, if you and your girlfriend or you and your boyfriend enjoy watching TV shows and exploring new shows, just turn the PlayStation on real quick. God of War Ragnarok. Run it. You will not be displeased. It's fun. It's fun. It's heart. It pulls on every heartstring you have. It's heartwarming. It's heartbreaking. And it challenges you as a person as you go through the game in a variety of ways. And I feel like if you go through this game and you don't feel challenged to be better, then you didn't play the game properly or you weren't paying attention. And I don't know how you could not pay attention. There's too many things to just be in awe of in this one. So, 9.75 from me for sure. For sure. With the 0.25 only being, I wanted somebody to die. That's all I'm saying. That's my final thought.
Yeah. Ragnarok, that whole segment of the game was a little back and forth, but overall it was fantastic. 9.7.
Yeah, they got the story across despite that or in spite of that. So it was great. It was great.
Odin.
Well,
eventually I'll bring up Odin in another conversation like months from now because Odin was great. Also, people were trash talking. That was great, but overall,
I thought he was excellent, man. I think he was a scary villain for them.
9.7.
And what he weld is part of why I think I'm tripped up by this thing, man. It's just it's time, man. Time. It reveals all. It's a jail to some. It's also how you get free, bro. It's fire. They ate this story up, bro.
Also, I feel like I keep adding little things. Tyr,
it's
real
hard.
Quick, Tyr. There's that big reveal that Tyr for the entire game was Odin.
Was Odin.
There are moments in his behavior where you can tell that it's, but even in the captions, his name is spelled differently. The real Tyr, whenever they say his name, he has that like whatever that is called over the Y, but whenever he actually speaks and it's Odin, it's missing, and it's so subtle, but they put it there.
I can't,
and,
bro.
Everyone in the prison at the end of the game are people that you can see throughout your initial playthrough of the game looking at you, and it's because it's Odin. There's a dwarf, there's an elf. It's just the ability of foresight, which is not something I will be not talking about anytime soon because I'll be talking about foresight a lot. That was in this game, but I'm ending that there. Next week,
I don't know how they did that.
I don't know if you want to talk about what our next episode is going to be. If you want me to do that,
sure.
So next week will be our episode on the Oscars. You and I have watched most of these movies, if not all of them. And we have opinions about who we think should win. So coming up on Sunday, we'll see who wins. Talk about it. On Thursday, you'll hear our thoughts. So
absolute.
Looking forward to it. There's some great categories and nominations this year.
And we may or may not have some guests on that episode.
You might have to just
we may or may not
tune in and find out.
Tune into what? I'll tell you what to tune into. Tune into CUZZO-OP. Why? Because it's two cousins, one podcast, endless entertainment. Thank you for rocking with us for episode 5. We'll catch you again next week, episode 6. Peace.